Hello everyone, this is an EGG1E1 production and I present to you the Warlords of Draenor guide to Guardian Druid tanking. Now before I begin the guide, I want to let you guys know that this is from alpha, so everything that I say today is subject to change. I just want to show you what we could be seeing in the future and what Guardian Druid might be becoming in Warlords of Draenor, so we can get a head start on the theory crafting and maybe it will help you guys in live when we get into the game. So here we go. The Warlords of Draenor Guide to Guardian Druid Tanking from the Alpha. This guide is going to be broken into 4 different sections: talents, rotation and skills breakdown, stat priority, and gameplay. First, let's begin with talents. There's 3 new choices for the 100 talents. First, Guardians of Elune. Guardians of Elune means that Savage Defense now lasts for only 3 seconds. But it increases your chance to dodge by 100%. This could be useful on a fight where a boss does large melee damage in big burst. This means that you have a 100% chance to mitigate a big attack that's coming in your way in the next 3 seconds. The second talent is Pulverize. Pulverize is a devastating blow that consumes 3 stacks of lacerate on the target, and it deals 300% weapon damage. It also generates 15 rage and reduces the damage that you take by 20% for 10 seconds. This is useful because it can reduce the average damage that you take over an entire encounter. If you choose Pulverize, there is quite an alteration to the rotation, so I will be talking more about Pulverize later on in the guide. The third and final talent is Bristling Fur. Bristling Fur means that you bristle your fur and reduce all damage that you take by 50% for 3 seconds. This is on a minute cooldown. This is another cooldown that reduces all damage that you take, which is useful for physical and magical damage. It means that you can mitigate big magical spikes that will be coming in the next 3 seconds on a short cooldown. Before we start looking at the rotation, we need to know what has changed. Let's start with Lacerate. This is the current lacerate that we're used to in Mr. Pandaria. It's on a 3-second cooldown, and it has a 25% chance to reduce the cooldown of Mangle. This is the new lacerate. It is now no longer having the 3-second cooldown and has no cooldown. The only cooldown is the GCD. This means that lacerate is spammable. Also, it generates 5 rage and still retains the 25% chance to reduce the cooldown on Mangle. Next, let's look at Mangle. Mangle is now on a 6-second cooldown and deals damage to the target as well as generating 5 rage. On Warlords of Draenor Alpha, it still is a 6-second cooldown but generates 10 extra rage, a total of 15 rage. And, quite important, Mangle's cooldown is reduced by haste. This means that the more haste you have, the lower the cooldown on Mangle, so Mangle will no longer be a 6-second cooldown depending on how much haste you have. Finally, let's look at Thrash. This is the Thrash that we're used to. It's on a 6-second cooldown and does damage to everyone in an AoE area. This also has a 25% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle, as well as applying weakening blows to the target. Now, in Warlords of Draenor, Thrash will no longer have a cooldown. This means that it is spammable. Also, every time that Thrash deals damage, you gain 2 rage. This means if you have many AoE targets, every time that you hit Mangle you generate 2 rage for each time it hits. Also, the damage over time ability of Thrash also generates rage. So basically, in a big AoE situation, you will be flooded with rage from Thrash. Now let's look at Tooth and Claw. Tooth and Claw means that your auto attacks in bear form have a 40% chance to empower your next Maul ability for 10 seconds. The empowered Maul causes its victim's next auto attack to deal less damage, and it can accumulate 2 charges. This means that when you hit Maul and Tooth and Claw is active, the enemy deals less damage on his next auto attack. You still need to pay the 30 rage with Maul currently with Tooth and Claw. But in the next expansion, Warlords of Draenor, thanks to the enhanced Tooth and Claw, which means that your next Maul is free due to Tooth and Claw, and it can also accumulate 1 extra charge, the new Tooth and Claw means that Empowered Maul is free. You no longer need to spend 30 rage. It also accumulates an extra charge, so up from 2, it becomes 3. So that means that whenever you see this, a lit up maul in the next expansion, you make sure that you press it because it is a free damage reduction. Now we need to look at how we use our rage. We're still using the ability Frenzied Regeneration, which means that you heal after taking damage, as well as the Savage Defense, which mitigates all of the physical damage that you take using dodge. These two spells we're already used to, and they are being unchanged in Warlords of Draenor according to the alpha. Now, there is 2 different rotations. This is depending on what talents we choose. One rotation with Pulverize, and another rotation without Pulverize. First, let's look at the rotation without Pulverize. You can see the rotation playing at the bottom of the screen. Our main priority is to use Mangle on cooldown. This means that we can generate as much rage as we can. Remember, Mangle's cooldown is reduced by haste, so the more haste you have, the more you can hit Mangle. Secondly, we want to use Maul whenever it lights up due to a Tooth and Claw proc, and whenever we have 100 rage, so we don't waste rage. Thirdly, we want to use Thrash and keep 100% dot uptime. It's important to notice that Thrash has 16-second duration on its periodic damage effect, which means that we need to apply Thrash at least every 16 seconds. Every free global cooldown that we have, we need to use for Lacerate. This means that we can generate rage as well as trying to reduce the cooldown of our Mangle. Finally, we need to make sure that we're using our rage on Frenzied Regeneration and Savage Defense. It's worth at this point stating that Frenzied Regeneration and Savage Defense, as well as Maul, is not on the global cooldown, so we can use it whenever they're available. Now let's look at the rotation with Pulverize that you can see playing at the bottom of the screen. Pulverize becomes our main priority, meaning that we need to use 1 Pulverize every 10 seconds. This means we can benefit from the damage reduction of 20% that Pulverize gives us. This lasts for 10 seconds, so we need to use it at least once every 10 seconds. To generate our Pulverize, we need at least 3 charges of Lacerate every 10 seconds. Then we go into our normal rotation of using Mangle on CD, using Maul whenever it lights up, or we have 100 rage, using Thrash to keep our 100% dot uptime, reapplying it every 16 seconds, and using Lacerate on our 3 GCDs. Again, using our rage on Frenzied Regeneration and Savage Defense to mitigate damage. Now let's look at our AoE rotation. Our AoE rotation is simple. Basically, it's spam Thrash. Because Thrash is not on a cooldown, you can spam it as much as you can. This means that we also benefit from the 2 rage that you get each time that you hit it, and each time that the dot ticks. This is beneficial because we can use our rage on Frenzied Regeneration, Savage Defense, and Maul. We will get a flood of rage through using Thrash, so we need to spam it like crazy. Now we shall look at our stat priority. Our forecasted stat priority is this: stacking haste until the GCD cap, then crit, and then mastery. The reason why we use haste is because haste reduces the GCD. Haste also reduces the cooldown on Mangle. Now we know that Lacerate has a 25% chance to reduce the cooldown on Mangle, and because Lacerate has no cooldown, we can use it as much as the GCD allows us to. Because haste reduces the GCD, it means we can use more Lacerates, because the lower GCD, the more Lacerates that we can use, so the higher chance that we have a free Mangle proc per period of time. Now that I have gone over the rotation and the stat priority, let's look at some gameplay. Here is a guide Druid fighting on a spot with more slight monsters in Warlords of Draenor Alpha. This guide Druid is 100 tons of old back and enjoy Thank you very much for watching this and I hope this guide helps you. If it did help you, make sure you leave a like and consider subscribing. Also, make sure that you check me out on Twitch and Twitter. Thank you very much for watching. This was an EGG1E1 production. Goodbye.